Hi, welcome everyone. We are just giving it a couple minutes for everyone to get logged in and join. Be patient as we acknowledge that sometimes technology just won't let us be great, and people are trying to get logged on. Oh, yay, we can see everyone. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. So happy that you all are here. I am Janae Lawler. I am representing the Tour for Diversity in Medicine. I am also the director of the Academic Advising and Strategic Initiatives at Michigan State University in the College of Natural Science. My sector is actually over pre-health careers for the entire university at Michigan State. And I've been a Tour for Diversity mentor for almost 10 years. Wow, that just aged me. Couple things before we get started. The meeting is being recorded. If you do not want to be recorded, but you still want to participate, absolutely just feel free to leave your camera off and then you will not be on video. If you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and we will get them answered as we go. And I will go ahead and start introducing all of our wonderful panelists who are here to share with you the joys of being them and getting into healthcare careers, how they made it, and all the wonderfulness that they have and advice that they can give. I am going to start with Ismail Grah. He is a second year at Barry University School of Podiatric Medicine, and is the president for the class of 2025. Ismail loves color, laughter, and sci-fi. We also have Stevie Ingram, who uses they, she pronouns and is queer and trans femme. Has over a decade of experience in the yoga and holistic health world. She's a certified yoga therapist and future naturopathic physician, training at Sonoran University of Health Sciences, formerly Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona. Their primary work is focused on helping to heal the pain and trauma that is pervasive within the queer and transgender communities by teaching practical and sustainable tools for vibrant health and well-being. Additionally, Stevie is a passionate advocate for plus health, evidence-based practice, and for teaching healthcare professionals how to provide gender and sexually affirming healthcare to the LGBTQIA plus community. Beyond their medical school studies and advocacy, you can find Stevie's first professionally written article entitled An Opportunity to Lead, Caring for Gender and Sexually Expansive Communities, LGBTQIA+, published in Yoga Therapy Today, a magazine of the International Association of Yoga Therapists. You can also learn more about her journey in an interview entitled Representation Matters, Supporting the LGBTQ+ community in Ayurveda and Kerala Ayurveda Academy in Milpitas, California. Stevie can also be found on all social media at both Future NMD Yogi and Queer Trans Thriving. We also have Ryan McIntyre, the fifth-year naturopathic medicine medical student at Bastyr University, California. She received a Bachelor of Arts degree in Global Health, Spanish, and Environmental Studies from the University of Oregon in 2015, where she graduated magna cum laude and became a member of Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society. She is currently an ND candidate 2023 at Bastyr University, where she serves as the Student Government Association President, the Botanical Medicine Club President, and a teaching assistant for the Botanical Medicine Department. She is passionate about botanical medicine, women's health, autoimmunity, and digestive health. Originally from New York City, Michael Kling is a fourth-year medical student at Nova Southeastern University, Kiran C. Patel College of Osteopathic Medicine. At Nova, he was the president of their LGBT plus student group, Medical Pride Alliance. Before medical school, he was a project manager for LGBT plus resource group for his consulting firm, where he brought a contingent to World Pride. He plans to complete residency in emergency medicine with special interest in enhancing emergent/urgent care access to the LGBT plus community. Noah Hall uses he, him pronouns, is a fourth-year pharmacy student from West Virginia University School of Pharmacy to represent being a member of the LGBT plus community in healthcare. His aspirations after graduation are to complete a 2-year residency program in infectious diseases, to work within an HIV clinic, reducing the stigma around living with HIV and promoting PrEP. We also have Ray J. Jackson, who was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas, attends the University of Michigan School of Dentistry after graduating from Brown University with a degree in literary arts. Both in and outside the classroom, they spent their undergraduate and predoctoral years working on community building initiatives, identity-based care, and DEI work, all informing their approach to healthcare. Ray J plans for a career and life reflective of the symbiotic relationship between healthcare and community care. And last but certainly not least, we have Katie Vest, who's a third-year osteopathic medical student at Via College of Osteopathic Medicine in Spartanburg, South Carolina. She grew up in Greer, South Carolina, and then attended college at Columbia College, a women's college in Columbia, South Carolina. She came to feel comfortable and confident in her identity as a queer woman while in school, and had the good fortune of meeting her wife, Desiree. She's interested in pursuing a residency in emergency medicine upon graduation, and hopes to serve as a leader among her peers in cultural competency when treating LGBTQIA plus patients. Thank you all so much for finding some semblance of time in your busy lives, I am sure, to have a moment with those that aspire to be where you are someday. Thank you all so much for being here. I want to ask the first question, which is, how did you decide to go into this field? Anyone can just jump in.
I'll start. So I actually started shadowing in my undergraduate. I thought I wanted to be a fish scientist, but obviously that didn't work out. And we had a required service learning course or something like that. And our partner for it was Planned Parenthood. And so through that, I started working with people in the clinic, and one of the doctors there actually knew from my JCC and was like, "Oh, do you want to shadow?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would like to do that." And I just really fell in love with women's healthcare, healthcare for folks in general, and getting to see like gyne care. And that's how I got interested in medicine. But it was basically just someone being like, "Oh, like you seem like you would like this. Do you want to like come watch me do it for a couple of hours, like not paid?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would like that." So, but shadowing is such a great opportunity, I think.
I guess I can go next. So I actually started off in a completely different field. I was initially studying scenic and lighting design for theater. Did that for about 2 years and realized this is not the area for me at all. Took some time off, worked for a pharmaceutical company helping to install new medical devices, specifically blood glucometers, around different hospitals. And that's when I first got exposed to healthcare in that fashion. I was also a volunteer firefighter on the side now and then too, and it just seemed like the perfect match. Took a few classes in like pre-medical coursework, realized that I could handle the course load, and ultimately finished up my undergrad degree in biochemistry. Coming into healthcare here specifically, my interest specifically in LGBT healthcare evolved during medical school itself, realizing there are some barriers that we need to overcome as a community in regards to LGBT health, in my opinion. And that's what's really focused me on the intersection of emergency medicine and the social emergency medicine part, specifically LGBT care.
I'll go next. So I actually ended up getting into the healthcare field because of my grandparents. They have passed about 6 and 7 years ago. While they were alive, my grandfather had invasive vagal syndrome. So a very unpredictable circumstance. So in a random situation, he would go into a very hypotensive state. And luckily, I only lived about a few streets away from the house. I would go over and be always the first person called to go help my grandparents in this situation. And that has always caused me to want to help people in the first place. And as I've progressed through, I first was a chem major, and that was not for me whatsoever. So I ended up switching into pre-pharmacy and applied through our 2+4 program. And the reason why I ended up choosing pharmacy myself is we are known as the medication experts. We are highly respected for knowing everything in and out of a medication.
I can jump in. So yeah, I'm in the School of Dentistry right now in the second year, and I would say that both of my sisters actually went into dentistry as well, which was like really, really exciting. My oldest sister was the first, being like the first doctor in our family. So I had my eyes set into healthcare because of the role models before me. I wasn't necessarily sure on pre-med or pre-dent at the time. And I did a couple summer programs, like one being the Summer Health Professions Education Program at UCLA. That's my site that I did. And I did it on pre-dental track, and I really, really enjoyed my time. I was able to see the heavier intersections of public health with dentistry. And I come from Arkansas, where we like rank from 50th in the United States for oral health care and dental education. So that was just like a really big deal and a really big shift for me. I majored in literary arts, so I was definitely in more like a creative bag in college and undergrad, and so I definitely wanted to like balance that, and I wanted to also like not lose, I think, like my community connection. I think that was a big deal. Like why I was even in the arts was just because I really loved connecting with people, talking to people, communicating with people. And that was something that I saw dentists doing directly. They were working with their patients, like having long-term treatment plans and changing their life, honestly. And so I think that was eye-opening and encouraging and respectable. So I was really excited to dive into it. And the other program I did was Profile for Success at the University of Michigan. So that was also like a big shift for me as well.
I'll go next. So I'm Stevie, everyone. I'm a third-year naturopathic medical student in Tempe in Arizona. I've been all over the place in my world. My undergrad is in music. And then for music school, I kind of got into yoga and went on to do grad studies in yoga and have a degree in yoga therapy. And that kind of got me in the direction of naturopathic medicine, just because I have so many interests. There's so many tools available to us as naturopathic physicians, you know, in addition to pharmacy and botanical medicine and physical medicine and many other things. So I just love studying all these various tools, you know, to get people well and to get people healthy. You know, I think our medical system sometimes is a little too focused on managing disease instead of teaching people how to be healthy. Even, you know, I myself have a chronic health condition that's incurable, but we can provide people with tools to gain greater vitality and health over the lifespan. And I think that's super important, which is why I decided to go into naturopathic medicine.
I can jump in next. So my undergrad was in basically global health, Spanish environmental studies, and I really loved studying all of those topics. But when I got around to looking into careers, I wasn't particularly drawn to any of the career paths that were available after graduating. But I always had an interest in like nutrition and health. And so as I started to explore, I was really just trying to find a career that I loved and would be passionate about, and that would be just challenging and fulfilling. And I had a couple of people point me in the direction of naturopathic medicine. And as I started to explore that, I just really was very drawn to that. And that's sort of how I ended up in naturopathic medicine. And I just really love it because we're balancing the sciencey side of medicine with sort of the more vitalistic side of that's a little bit unique to naturopathic medicine, to try to help patients both manage symptoms, but also achieve a deeper form of healing. So that's where I ended up, how I got here.
All right, so it's my turn. So I got interested in medicine when I was 18 years old. My little brother was diagnosed with Down syndrome. So when he was born, I didn't really understand what was going on. So I decided to do something in medicine so that way help him out, or in any way I can. And yeah, I've been all over the place. I did my undergrad at Florida International University, pre-med major with a psych minor. And then I got my master's at Barry University. And then I became a teacher for 2.5 years, teaching high school students. That was interesting. I love to teach, but not those young folks. But it was a rewarding experience. And then I was also a scribe in the ER for about 6 years. And so I did a little bit of that, shadowed many doctors. And then until I found one day I was shadowing in the OR, and the doctor that was doing the procedure, it said DPM on his white coat. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I was like, I had never seen it. And so we started talking, and I fell in love with podiatry, because podiatry is like the gem of medicine. A lot of people really don't know about it, but it's actually really cool that we have a lot more. Well, we have 2 more schools now. And yeah, podiatry, you can do dermatology, a little bit of plastics, just about anything. You can create your own practice. So that was also a selling point for me. And I also, just want to help people out. And that's why I chose podiatry.
Ah, there we go. Sorry, again, technology sometimes just won't let us be great. Mute button just decided it wasn't going to work anymore. I'm sorry, everyone. So, thank you all for sharing all of that. It sounds like everyone is coming from a bunch of different backgrounds. It's not all just all I wanted to do was science, which I love hearing as a pre-health advisor, because a lot of students just focus on, I just need to do biology or chemistry or biochemistry and just forget about everything else I've ever had any interest in. So I love that all of you had multiple interests and were pursuing them all before landing in the areas that you were. One question that I often ask my students as they are working on their skills and growing into becoming a professional school student is advocating for yourself. What are some ways that you all learned about how to advocate for yourself effectively? And I'm actually going to pick someone first. I'm going to pick on Noah, because you were the first person that I looked at.
Okay. Oh my. So advocacy. I guess I can go. Well, going back to the way it was in my bio, how I have a very large interest in the infectious diseases world, and more specifically HIV. Advocacy is probably one of the largest things you could possibly do in the realm of HIV. That has just been something that I have been true to, held to. I've just always wanted to make sure that people understand that living with HIV is not a death sentence. And a lot of people still don't understand that. People don't know the U equals U, the undetectable equals untransmittable. I have always been a thing, for trying to at least explain to someone. They're like, hey, Noah, what is this? What can you help me? And I even have my best friend right now who actually her sister excuse me, I need to correct myself. Her brother has just came out as a trans man. See, and like I say, I'm not perfect. Obviously, I make these mistakes and things, but it's just, I've always advocated for gay people in general, just because it's how I am. It's my life. That's who I am. That's not going to change. So that's how I came into advocating for HIV and everything else regarding it.
Stevie, I'm gonna pick on you next. How did you?
Just felt that you
How
were
did
going
you-
to do that.
How
Are
did
you, is the
learn
question
to
surrounded around advocating within our training or advocating like just as healthcare professionals in general? Because I can go two different
Advocating.
routes.
advocating for yourself, advocating as a healthcare professional, advocating for others, whichever way you want to take it. How did you learn how to advocate?
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, healthcare, as everybody on this panel knows, healthcare training programs, regardless if it's medicine or podiatry or any pharmacy, any form of being in the medical world is it's difficult. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life, to be honest. So I think, and you'll have to confront colleagues, you'll have to confront professors that you don't like, to be quite honest. And, I think the advocacy that we can, for example, because this is an LGBT panel, so this is just like one example of what's happening in healthcare is that, so I haven't legally changed my birth name yet. And I was just beginning general medicine 2 this quarter. And at the beginning of the quarter was like publicly dead named in front of my entire cohort. And I know the professor doesn't know me. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't malicious, but one of the things that I advocated for at my own school was like, hey, we need to be prioritizing people's chosen names. Like, yes, you can have their birth name and legal name kind of in the background, for filling out student financial aid documents and all the legal documentation that needs to be signed. But, publicly, let's honor people's chosen names. So that's something that so I emailed the dean and said, hey, this is problematic. Like, let's shift with the times. And so they're currently working on changing that within the system. But this is, I think, as LGBTQ people, things that we're going to have to kind of interface with. And it's just one example, and I'm sure my school isn't the only place that that's happening. There are just systemic issues within medical education, within healthcare, outside of medical education. And so, yeah, I think ultimately, just using your voice, I think the best thing that any of us can do is open our mouths to advocate, even if no one else is doing it, because then that sets a precedent for, in the future. So that's how I would answer that right now.
There is a question from the participants. What is your experience, or is the percentage/number of LGBTQ plus folks in your profession/career path in healthcare? So what is your experience, or what is the percentage of people? Does anyone want to take that, or do you want me to just call you out again?
I can speak for that a little bit, and I can't give you a definitive answer, at least for the medicine side, like the allopathic, osteopathic medicine side of things. But from my personal experiences, at least in my medical school, it's definitely smaller than the general population. I think, though, there's almost like an army behind us. There's tons of Facebook groups for LGBTQIA plus positions and all over the place. And everyone, once you find them, it becomes like a big family. So the people exist. You have an army there. You need people to support you along the way, and lots of allies. But as far as the specific percentage, my gut instinct is it's a little bit less, but how to get back to you for a specific number. I don't think it really would change my decision to go into medicine though.
I can also speak to that. I would say, from my experience, I'd agree it's a smaller percentage. My school is a relatively small school. I think most of the naturopathic medical schools are pretty small, and there's not that many of us. And it can be hard to find that community within the school, especially if you don't have like an LGBTQ plus club or hub where you could meet other people. So in that sense, it can be a bit isolating, but I will say, at least for my campus in San Diego, there are a lot of allies, and it doesn't feel like a hostile environment at all. But again, trying to find others in your community can be a challenge, because you don't always know just by looking at people. You learn that through conversations and over time as you get to know somebody. So that has been a struggle a little bit, but I would agree it would not change my decision to go into my chosen career at all. And if anything, it's I would hope it would encourage more folks within our community to get involved in medicine.
Can I actually add on one more thing to Janae, if that's okay? Because this also answers your question too. My second year of medical school was when the pandemic happened, and it became even more isolating trying to find our people, so to speak. And that's when I became the president of the Medical Pride Alliance, or LGBTQIA group, down at my medical school in Fort Lauderdale. And the first thing I did was create this online safe space group chat. And then we all started having this conversation that currently wasn't existing before. And out of that, we started identifying curriculum issues that, probably you learn so much in health profession schools, so much. It's like getting hit by a fire hydrant sometimes with information. And a lot of things miss you, or they forget to put it in the fire hydrant in the first place. And one thing we identified was we were never being taught about how to deal with gender affirming care and transgender medicine in general. So from that group, we decided to put together a 5-part educational series and then proceeded to teach the rest of the class ourselves. And we had like a third of the class participate. Even the dean of our medical school showed up. So that's one way we were able to advocate, while at the same time realizing how many allies truly do exist in our field that are actively engaged and concerned about LGBT matters. So the ally population, I feel, is bigger than you might think. But at the exact percentage, probably does feel a little bit less as far as who are actually identifying as LGBT.
Michael, I just want to piggyback off what you were saying, because I'm in the process of writing an article, a follow-up article to my first article in Yoga Therapy Today. I'm writing more of one about gender affirming care, and many on this panel might know that the WPATH standards just were released in September, World Professional Association of Transgender Health. The standards 8 were just practiced, and are just released. And there was I have the article written up, so I just want, because it's very telling that, like, in that article, they stated that there's no like health or medical organization, educational institution, or even licensing bodies that absolutely require training on gender affirming healthcare worldwide. And so when I read that statement, I just, I mean, I wasn't surprised, but it's just, you just realize how overwhelming of an issue this is at all medical schools and at all healthcare training programs, no matter what the program is. This is a systemic issue that's not just in the US or Canada, it's worldwide. So yeah, cheers to you all for doing that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is really, really awesome. I also want to point out there's a comment in here for you, Michael, that says, we love that you wouldn't change your decision. Representation is important for our students navigating school and their career path. And there's also a question about where can people get gender affirming care resources to send to allies or their doctors. Does anyone have a resource?
Yeah, so the Endocrine Society is really great, and the American College of Pediatric Endocrinology are both really great resources for like hormone therapy, puberty blockers, things like that, for our our pediatric and also our adult patients, like kind of what are your options. And then there's actually a surgeon that works out of Oregon. He has his own website. It's called like thequeersurgeon.com or something like that. And he has an Instagram page. He just had like this huge editorial about like the clitoris and the New York Times and like, or the Washington Post and some large like publication. He's super cool. But he talks a lot about like kind of different options for surgical interventions as well for people that are considering top surgery, bottom surgery, any kind of facial like changes to like become your like best self. So those are some really great sources. But I mean, I know I can speak to, at least around here, a lot of physicians are not comfortable doing hormone therapy just because we're not taught it in medical school. Not as our like main like deal. So like there will be like, oh, like I can send you to this one family doctor who I know does it, or they'll send you to an endocrinologist, which is unfortunate because it's more expensive that way. Like you have to go every like so frequently when you're on hormone therapy, and then you have to pay the specialist copay every time. So that's really unfortunate. But there are some family docs that, or at least around here, which I'm in a pretty small area of South Carolina, that provide hormone therapy and are really, really skilled at it.
And
Thanks so
also,
much.
oh,
Go ahead, Stevie.
I was just
gonna
going to
say
add
thank
real
you. Go
quick,
ahead.
the University of California, San Francisco has a phenomenal website about trans care. I believe it's just labeled transgender care. So yeah, they're an excellent resource. I'm trying to think of others, but I'll chime in if I do.
Okay, thank you, Stevie. There's another question. In your experience, do you know if there's a LGBTQ plus Bill of Rights for LGBTQ patients in your fields or city, state, or area? It's looking like a no. Okay. So I have another question about moving through the health professions field. Often you are growing up in the area and then you may go to school in that area, or you may go to undergrad at some other state, and then you get into health professions, and that might be in a whole different state than the first two. How do you navigate this traversing across the US for your health professions and still building support networks? Ray J.
Right. Yeah, so I started in Arkansas. I went to undergrad in Rhode Island, and then I made my way to the Midwest to be in Michigan for dental school. So I bounced around a little bit. And I would say that each transition was really rough. For me personally, it was something new to get adjusted to. I just like each region was also immensely different than the next. And so I think in that transitional time, reminding myself to give myself grace and time to let that transition happen, to be open to new people, new experiences. And I think a big thing to also go back to the first question also that was there about like advocating for yourself. I think a big part of that was like learning actually what my needs were, like learning what I needed in community, what I needed to thrive in the work environment, to thrive for myself, my personal life. And so really diving into that self-work was really, really big for myself. It was, what do I need? Okay, well, I need like queer support, queer friends. I need Black friends. I need Black community. So then looking onto the campus that I was on, like at Brown, and then really looking to like, okay, like what centers on campus, what communities on campus, groups on campus, organizations on campus that I can really dive into that will give me that support. That was really, really big for me. Transitioning into dental school was also different, but I think once I was really feeling like I needed that community heavy, I dove into SNDA, which is just our Student National Dental Association that really focuses on diversity and dental care. And so that has been my family and support. And we have at the University of Michigan, Alliance for Inclusion, which is our LGBTQ plus community org on campus. And so that was really big for me to reach out to those orgs, get involved as much as I could. We also have the Spectrum Center at the University of Michigan, which is the first queer college, college and undergrad center, I think in America, actually. They just celebrated their 50th year. So really just like trying to find the things that I know that I need in community, and follow that and find those resources, and just like talking, asking if other people know of resources, other people know of things, and just kind of taking those risks to find it.
Ryan, sorry, the mute button again. Ryan, how did you navigate having a semi-nomadic lifestyle because of the career you chose?
So I don't know that I have much to add to this question because I was born and raised in California, on the Monterey Peninsula. And then my undergrad was in Eugene, Oregon, which is very liberal. And now I'm down in San Diego, which is pretty liberal. So I've spent most of my time on the West Coast. So I don't feel like I've necessarily like traversed across the country much or had that intense of an experience in regards to moving locations. Of course, anytime you move location, you're going to want to find your community, but I've been fortunate to always sort of live in pretty liberal and accepting areas.
Was that something that was intentional?
Yes and no. For undergrad, not necessarily. It wasn't something that factored into my decision. I just loved Eugene when I went there. Thinking about it now, I just knew I liked the energy there when I was choosing between schools. So that factored into my decision, but I would say it was indirect. In regards to naturopathic medicine, there's only so many choices. We have most of our schools focused on the West Coast, like Seattle, Arizona, San Diego, Portland. So somewhat, I think it would have been much more challenging for me to move farther away from the West Coast or to a state. Having been born and raised in California, I would be a bit more hesitant to go to a state where perhaps I'm not as familiar with the politics or what's going on there. Absolutely. But yeah, for naturopathic schools, most of them are in areas that I feel like are pretty welcoming to our community, at least from my experience with them.
Thank you. And also, if you have not looked in the chat, some of our panelists have been posting links to some of the societies and websites that they were talking about in terms of having resources. So if you haven't looked at the chat, make sure you take a look at that, because a lot of them have posted. And thank you, Catherine, Stevie, and Michael, for adding to that. So next question, I'm coming for you, Ismail. How do you, when you, as a healthcare provider, you don't get to choose who comes into your office. They just come to you. How do you navigate having this profession where you care about people, but also protecting your peace and your space?
Ooh, okay. So, we all come in different shapes and sizes and colors. And so I just think respect is a big one. When I've shadowed certain doctors, some people, sorry, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. I would just say respect is a big thing between people. As a scribe, you always want to give people their space I'm kind of drawing a blank here, but sorry, respect just between patient and the physician. for sure. I haven't, I'm still in school. We haven't really done much rotations yet. I actually start that next semester. So I haven't gotten much exposure. But yeah, I think, yeah, mutual respect. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in and help me out.
I can chat a bit. I've been like assisting and having a few rotations in the clinic so far. Yeah, I think especially this is like from me talking to upperclassmen after like some like harmful incidents have happened as well in the clinic. And I think it's just really being grounded. And I mean like every day, like regrounding yourself in like why you went into this field, reminding yourself like what you're here to do, you know, like, yeah, it's just like realigning yourself with the goals that you set, that you intended for yourself. So I know for me, like I'm here to like help people, to make people feel better, feel less pain and feel happier, especially related to their oral care, but obviously all around. You cannot choose the patients that walk into the clinic, the patients that are assigned to you, that come into your office. And the hope is that you can set a precedent of respect, you know, and I think that's what was being said previously. It's just like you can set that guideline of treating them with respect, welcoming them warmly, kindly, and doing as much to make it as comfortable as possible. But also like if it gets to a part of like crossing lines and boundaries of yourself, like also being able to recognize that. So I think realigning with yourself, realigning with your goals is super important, and also like remaining kind of firm in your boundaries, like understanding that like it will take respect. Also having a team behind you. So obviously we're in the clinic, so like if things are too harmful, like the hope is that we trust our clinic advisors enough to where we could tell them that we are not comfortable, we are not feeling safe, we are feeling a bit harmed, and they can step in a way that is adequate, that way that we are still safe, and also the patient is still able to get the care that's necessary, because at the end of the day, like that's why they're there, and that's also why we're here. But I don't believe in sacrificing like all of myself and my well-being and my safety for that. My hope is then to mitigate that and allow someone else who may be a better provider for that person. So just like knowing your limits, but also like knowing your reasons why you're in this field, really important.
I guess I can add on to that too, from an ER standpoint, having done quite a few months there, and you'll see people that come in who are extremely rude to you. They throw insults, they're really drunk, they're intoxicated, and you don't sacrifice yourself for anything. Sometimes you have to let it roll off your back, but at the same time, that there's limits. But you'll see that in healthcare, and that's a reality. You should be expecting that you'll see the best and worst of people. At the end of the day, we're just there to focus on their healthcare, not necessarily their viewpoints. But again, to let that be a sacrifice to yourself and what you stand for and who you are.
Kind of on a practical note, like especially as a woman, I would say that the nurses are kind of your best friend, or even like just like other ancillary medical staff. Like if a patient is being really inappropriate to you and they're like, "Hey, sugar, I don't even want to tell you some of the things patients have asked me what I want to do." But like if like they're being really inappropriate, like you just like go grab like another female, like especially one that's really experienced, maybe has like a little RBF, you go and like grab them and you're like, "Hey, I just want you to like sit on the computer and pretend to type for like 20 minutes. And like you can get the rest of your stuff done. They're not going to bother you because like there's like strength in numbers." Yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
I can give a perspective here. So pharmacists are one of the most accessible healthcare providers ever. Like you could just walk into a pharmacy and just immediately ask them for help while they're doing 600 other things. You see all walks of life from everywhere, it's eye-opening to see different aspects. I'm used to seeing people who are very rude, or sometimes there's been times where there's been patients where it goes anywhere from being the rudest to someone who is so nice and can't afford things like their medications and whatnot. There was this one time where a patient, actually it was her child, who couldn't pay for their medications, and I was just in a circumstance where I just ended up helping in them and paying for that. And it's honestly you're not supposed to do that in the situation that I was in with the organization I work at. But on the opposite end, like I said, being rude, I was actually cussed at because someone was not getting their pain medication. And I was getting to the point where I literally had to get my pharmacist above me to be behind me and help me with this, and ended up calling security for this type of situation. So there are those boundaries that you have to have and make those mitigations and getting that help and everything.
I would say there's always the option of referral, if you don't, like that's standard in medicine, right? If you don't feel comfortable working with a patient, or there is some drastic, diversity and perspectives on particular treatments or whatever the case may be, to the point that you can't work with them, always refer them out. That's always an easy way to go.
And I'll clarify really quick, the example I used before was very specific for emergency medicine, where you're like legally not allowed to turn a patient away during an emergency. So you can definitely refer out in other fields.
Good clarification.
Yeah, I'm also really interested in emergency med, but like right now I'm rotating in the outpatient. And I think a lot of like patient respect also goes kind of hand in hand with patient buy-in. So like if your patient really like believes that like you have their best interest at heart, even sometimes like the most unreasonable, like crazy, like cantankerous and like just rambunctious patients will, if like you're doing like your best and you're trying to break things down to them and make it like everything really accessible and kind of leveling with them, I feel like I've had really good luck with like getting patients to kind of a little see eye to eye with me, even if they're like, I don't know, this lady, I don't know what she's selling, but I'm not buying it. But then like if you can kind of make it more accessible to them, because I mean, sometimes I think, right, like as a provider, they're not just like balking at that, like you're queer, like it's not like that's the inherent problem. It's like we're also in like this weird power dynamic where like we're now your boss and like we're like you own your body, but we get to like do whatever we want to it. Or at least that's how like medicine's been like traditionally, right? So like I think it's, if you kind of step back and you're like, I'm going to honor your autonomy and I'm going to honor like your body, and I want you to be comfortable and I want us to make decisions as a team and not just me tell you what to do. I think that patients will really respond to that, even when they might not typically like take advice from like a fat Jewish lesbian, so.
I love that. Informed consent, I think is, I think, a lot of the standard in healthcare is like, oh, let's hand you this educational pamphlet about whatever treatment you're going to get. But there's like there's that humanness that needs to happen between a physician and a patient that like takes the opportunity to educate them, and provide that, just provide that human connection, which I think is often lacking. But Michael, I wanted to ask you and anybody else in the ER, that's certainly not my area. But in terms of like referring out, could you in those situations hand the patient off to another colleague?
And it depends. I mean, I was in a situation recently where racial slurs were starting to be thrown across the room and the nurse was replaced by someone else. But in certain ERs, like especially community ERs, you might be the only ER doctor there, or your backup's further away. You could get, you could have your hands tied. And I don't want to sugarcoat it, but that's really the case. And other places, like a big institution where you have tons of other ER doctors, you can definitely shoo them off, but you just can't kick them out of the building, the patient, even if it's they're saying the worst things in the world.
But like also to counter that, like I think ERs like in a normal doctor's office, if you walked in and you needed to have like a genital exam for any reason and you were like, I actually don't feel comfortable with like someone of your gender performing it, I would rather have someone of my own gender perform it, like that would be acceptable. And in the ER, it's like the one place where like if if I'm the only person that's there and I need to look at your scrotum, I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna have to, like, because it's me or nothing. So so it's also like, it's not just like about like patients like being rude to you, it's kind of also about patients feeling safe. So ER is kind of a special place where sometimes, like, especially like really small hospitals, like, I mean, we have a hospital, we have an ER where I rotated in Union, South Carolina, a very small town, has like 4 beds in the ER. It's not necessarily where you want to be when there's a huge emergency going down, but unfortunately, sometimes folks would wind up there and they would have really terrible emergencies, and we would have really like not a ton of resources, really nowhere to admit them. And we'd have to just kind of stabilize them to the best of our ability. But if they had said, you know, I'd actually rather another doctor work on me, and be like, well, I'm sorry, it's me or it's this like tech who's on their phone. So you got 2 choices.
Thank you all for sharing that. We have about 9 more minutes left, so I do want to ask a feel-good question to end us off on. What keeps you going? And this is for everyone. What keeps you going?
I'll jump on. What keeps me going is growing up, at least that I can remember, I didn't see any representation, you know, I never met a gay doctor before or anyone in the medical field. And I guess just because when I was growing up, you know, everything was like everybody was in the closet, which I don't even like that term. It's like I never was in the closet. I was like dancing around everywhere. But anyways, got to give a name to everything. And so, yeah, I what keeps me going is that it took me a lot to get to where I am today. And I'm a very proud gay man, and I can say that openly and happily. And just to have, I wish that growing up, I had someone like myself, you know, to look up to. And so that's what keeps me going, making people happy and just being my authentic self, and, you know, wishing that everybody could do the same and have the same courage as I do. And yeah, I just want to be a role model for those coming who want to be in my shoes and the shoes of everyone else. So, yeah.
Shout out to the kitty cuddles, first of all. Love it. I'm surprised my 2 aren't up here. But what keeps me going? Yeah, as I was saying earlier, these programs are extraordinarily difficult. And I think, I mean, one of the things that keeps me going is, you know, I'm a longtime yoga practitioner. I would say anything that just keeps you connected, you know, regardless of what you believe in spiritually or what you don't believe in. We all believe in something bigger than ourselves, and whatever connects you to that, please stay connected to it, because, you know, sometimes, you know, you're working through all the, you know, whatever various biochemical pathways, whatever, you know, pathologies, whatever differential diagnoses, learning all these things through all these programs, and you can lose sight. You can very easily lose sight, getting caught up in all the information. And I think the biggest thing we can do is just stay connected in whatever way feels authentic to you, whether it's going out in nature, whether it's yoga, breathing, meditation, you know, really being conscious about spending time with a partner, because it can get so overwhelming so quickly. So just really, yeah, staying connected in any way possible is the way that you get through this, in my opinion.
I agree with Stevie too. I mean, you know, I feel, and this happened to me a few times early on in medical school, where you start to lose track of your own personal health while focusing on the health of everyone else around you. And I think it's a common issue among many healthcare professionals. It's all about work-life balance, so to speak. You know, give yourself that break time, those moments where you can step back and look at the bigger picture and just enjoy life and the beauty about it. Whether that's from riding a bicycle, playing with your cat, talking with friends, or hanging out. It's always good to remember the big picture and why we're actually in this, to prove not just everyone's lives, but our own lives as well.
definitely want to echo the community aspect. Yeah, these schools are hard, super tough. Particularly like Octobers are really bad like in Michigan for midterms, and so I'm just coming out of like a really, really rough time, and definitely can say like community is really what got me through. And that's not just necessarily like my dental community. I love them, but we're also all going through the rough time together. So it's like it's nice to see someone in the trenches with you, like right beside you, but it's also really nice for my community that I've made, my chosen family that I have like before and outside of dental school. That's been really, really important to make sure that I'm connected with them still, that I'm able to call them, talk to them, and remind myself of the person that I am. These schools are very monolithic in their systems, so like it's kind of like a one size fits all and pushes you through, and so you can lose sight, as Stevie had mentioned. And I definitely think staying connected with the people, the things that you love is like super, super integral to making it through all of this. And I also think for me, since I've done a lot, my first 2 years are really mainly pre-clinic and just like learning didactics, heavy classroom work. When we do get opportunities as such as like assisting and just like any clinic rotations that we have, it's just super, super encouraging to having those like slight windows where I'm able to see like what being a provider is going to do for someone. So again, like regrounding myself and like why I'm here. And so those moments when I'm assisting and we just finished delivering dentures and the patient is like so excited and sending pictures to their family and hugging the provider, it's a beautiful moment. And so like you just can't really replace those. And I think those are well enough moments that can help me continue pushing through to at least get to the point where I can make that difference for people. So yeah.
I think in my aspect of what keeps me going is definitely going to be hope. Always giving hope to the people that you are treating, no matter what. Going full circle back into the HIV realm, telling that person that they're going to be fine, they're going to be okay, giving them their safe space and understanding that we are there for them, we are there to help them, and no matter what, even if it's not part of what we do, as in me being a pharmacist, if it's not medicinally related, then if they need other resources, provide that. That's things that we need to do as healthcare providers, is be a resource and provide other resources to them as well. That just giving hope is the best thing that I think helps keeping me going.
When I think back to the most challenging period within school for me, I think what got me through it was definitely community, like what everybody's been saying. That was huge, whether that's your community at school or outside of school, your partner, whatever it may be. If your school has, just in a very practical aspect, if your school has a counselor or a therapist, use them. It's very helpful to go to therapy when you're in medical school. And then recognizing your needs. I'm fortunate that our school offers a 5-year track program. It's normally 4 years. And in my 3rd year, I started to burn out really hard. That was during the peak of COVID for me. And I switched to 5-year, which was a hard decision because you're battling your ego when you're saying, I'm going to slow down. But recognizing what you need, because ultimately it's what's going to bring you happiness and keep you going through the program. And just know that, like, if you're having struggles in clinic, working through those struggles, eventually you'll see the growth and the reward from that. And that's always very satisfying when you can recognize that pattern of growth that you've been through.
Okay, I saw that you put the floofs, the babies, the kitties that you had on for your reason.
Yeah. And my wife is like my rock. And she was actually in grad school the first 2 years that I was in med school. So it was interesting to kind of be like our support for each other. But now she's just my sugar mama. No, I'm just kidding. She's also the love of my life. And then she's just like a really great resource, I think. And then like we're really tight with our family. I think it's important to remember, like, yeah, you're really passionate about like your job. It's not a 9-to-5 for us, but like it doesn't have to be your whole identity. Like you can still love to like knit or bake or jog or I don't know, Comic-Con, cosplay, whatever. You can do whatever you want. Like, and also like it makes you like happier and more interesting at the end of it. So
I think we hit everyone. Everyone told what kept them going. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Like I said, I know your schedules are off the hook and you got lots of stuff going on. For some of you, it's work. For some of you, it's just debriefing after midterms. So thank you all for being here and sharing with everyone here your perspectives and your insight and and your advice. Thank you so much. I am going to turn it over to Mandy, who has a couple of announcements that she wants to put up. But thank you all. Round of applause for you all.
Yes.
All of you beautiful people.
That's
thank
where
you
I
so
was
much.
going to start was thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Mandy now. I'm the Executive Director of Health Professions Week. And first, I just want to say thank you so much to these students for taking some time out of their very busy lives to share some thoughts with us. And to Janae as well from Tour for Diversity in Medicine. Thank you for being our fearless leader tonight. I appreciate it. I also want to give a quick shout out to the colleges of osteopathic medicine, naturopathic medical colleges, the podiatric medical colleges, the Dental Education Association, and the colleges of pharmacy, because those are who you see represented here tonight. So thank you for spending time with us. I also want to invite all of you to come back about an hour from now in the 8 o'clock hour in Eastern. We will have our careers in dermatology panel. So I appreciate all of you so much. I'm actually going to stop the recording.